wrestling diehards only, this is the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, coming to you live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. My name is Brandon Bainey. Let me introduce you to the panel tonight. Batting leadoff is the guy who comes last alphabetically, but he's number one in our hearts. It's Brian Zollinger. Brian, what's going on?
Hey, Brandon. Great to be here again. There's a lot of exciting stuff to cover today.
Yes, a lot to get to, certainly. Batting in the two-hole tonight, we've got Jacob Eck. What's up, Jacob?
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And I saved the best for last year tonight, fellas, because this guy, I introed him last week saying he was the sharpest looking guy in wrestling coverage. And then this week he ends up breaking his camera because his looks are so good. It's Al Fontes. Al, what's up?
Not much. All's well.
So we can hear Al. We just can't see him tonight. There's, I don't know, something going on with his camera, but that's all right. We'll just roll on with it. We always want to let everybody know that there's a couple of ways you can view this: the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Twitter account. Wherever you're at, could you hit that like button? If you're on Facebook, hit the like button and then share it. That'll help everybody that can't be here live come back and watch it later tonight, or even tomorrow or the next day. If you're on Twitter, go ahead and hit that like button and retweet it, and that will help everybody see it with the algorithms. And then if you're on the YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the like button and hit that subscribe button as well up in the top corner, if you wouldn't mind. It's the little bell icon, and then that way you get notified every time we go live with something here on IdahoSports.com. And it helps everybody that can't be here live tonight see it later on down the road. You can always go back and watch the replay of this. You can also download this podcast wherever you download your podcasts. It is the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast. You just search for that, subscribe to it, and you can listen to it if you're not quite ready to see all of our faces. Well, 3 of our 4 faces tonight. And again, this is a show that is driven by you, the fans. We want to hear from all of you fans tonight, where you're watching from, who your favorite team is, who you want to shout out individually. We already got one comment here from Skylar Beck. I know Skylar loves tuning into the show every week. Hello, everyone. Hey, Skylar. Hope the weather up north is treating you well. Weather this time of year, of course, can be tricky. So everybody hop in the comments. We'll throw them up on the screen. And we really want you, the fans, to guide the dialogue tonight as we get into it. But we always start with the best thing that we all saw from the past week. Brian, I'll go to you first. What was the best thing that you saw from this past week?
Man, it's always such a tough segment of the show, too, because there were so many good things. I've got to say, I really enjoyed seeing a couple of our Idaho teams going down to Spring Creek, Nevada, and take number 1 and 2. You had Buell finish first and Caldwell second. It's always fun, and it's a pretty decent tournament to see our schools travel out of state and just clean house, take the 2 top spots. So that's probably the best thing, but there were a lot of individual matches that were super exciting this week.
Yeah, no doubt. Jacob, best thing you saw last week?
Skellinger winning Rockwell Rumble. I think that was the best. He got pushed a little bit, and had to wrestle and beat Clovis in the semis. So I think that was so far at the top of my list.
Yeah, that's in Utah, right, Jacob? Yeah, for sure. Al, what was the best thing you saw from the past week?
So I was at the Jaybird tournament at Columbia High School for the girls. A lot of great matches, but I have to say at 145's Mia Furman of Rocky Mountain. Last week at the Raleigh Lane, she made the finals and unexpectedly lost to a wrestler from Valet, Oregon, who is not ranked nationally. Good news, she regrouped throughout the week and came back and not only took her down with an ankle pick, got a near side cradle and pinned her in 57 seconds and ended up winning the OW. So it was good to see someone come back from a hard loss.
Yeah, the perseverance and the ability to bounce back, and boy, that's smoking 57 seconds. That's pretty darn good. The best thing I saw, and everybody in the comments is hopping on with what I'm going to say. JJ, Yeah, Post Falls, Idaho, Trojan country. The River City duels came down to Post Falls, Meridian, and Post Falls ends up excelling there. Jacqueline already given a shout out. Damian Hamilton from Post Falls High for sure. Anthony says, yeah, Post Falls Trojans. We're all about the North this week, no doubt. Here's Jed. Jed says, enjoyed watching the Post Falls Meridian duel. Post Falls number 2 team is dang tough too, talking about the second unit of guys in each weight class. And thanks to Meridian for posting the video so we could watch it. Yes, definitely so. And so, yes, I think we'll start there. We're getting a couple more shout outs in. We've got Julie Willoughby watching tonight on YouTube from New Plymouth. She says, go Grims. That's the New Plymouth Pilgrims. And Ate Havas says the best thing that he saw was Jolie Slider taking home the OW at Jaybird, Al, as well. So, we're going to get to plenty of Post Falls. Let's start with the Jaybird, because this is, to me, the premier girls wrestling event now in the regular season for the state of Idaho. It's really impressive to see how it's grown by leaps and bounds. And Eagle ended up winning the team title there, Al.
Yeah, so if we look at 2018, I believe was the first year, they had 22 teams, approximately about just under 50 wrestlers. Fast forward to 2023, we had 52 teams and just over 304 wrestlers. So you're talking roughly, 600% increase in just a matter of a few years. We had most of the teams from the Treasure Valley teams as far east as Rigby. We had Lewiston, Potlatch up north, even South Idaho, as far west side was there, 7 Oregon schools as well as Elko. So overall, it was a pretty tough tournament. I got a few stats here. This tournament had 21 returning state placers, and over 33 of the girls in the tournament were ranked in the top in the state.
Wow, that's high caliber competition there, no doubt. Skylar says her favorite thing she saw was Cadence's finals match. That's of course Cadence is Skylar's sister. Al, were you able to see? You were there obviously with the Rocky Mountain girls, but were you able to observe much of anything else that was going on there?
Oh, I watched the whole tournament pretty closely. Yeah, I watched Cadence Beck's match. She pretty much dominated the tournament. In the finals, she had Skylar Scott from Century, who's a freshman. So we're starting to see some good underclassmen, but overall, her weight group was pretty good. She wrestled solid and tough, and definitely one of the favorites in the state.
Yeah, Skylar says it was the first match where she didn't have a pin besides when she took on Skylar Zimmerman from Moscow earlier this year. So that's a pretty impressive streak for Cadence Beck from Grangeville. Tiffany and Brian say sophomore Elise Twait taking out 2 returning state champions and avenging the tough loss in the Raleigh finals to win the 138 at the Jaybird. Al, that was another highlight from the Jaybird.
Yeah, so if you look at the tournament, I broke it down by grade. So of all the placers, excluding, there was 4 placers from out of state. Of the Idaho placers, 43% were from 12th graders, 25, about a quarter was 11th, and then 9th grade, about 23%. Then we had 4 placers, roughly just under 10% were freshmen. So you're starting to see some good underclassmen come up.
Yeah, it's really fun to see those underclassmen come through. So that was the Jaybird that took place over in the Treasure Valley. Up north, of course, we had the River City duels and the Post Falls Trojan love still coming through here. Lynn says, go Post Falls Trojans. Loving Trey Smith. And so let's talk about this. We just came out with the freshly updated individual and team rankings earlier this afternoon. And this is something we all kind of collaborate on throughout the week. And we had an interesting idea, Jacob, in terms of how we were going to rank, because we rank the top 5 teams by classification, and then we do a top 5 overall rankings regardless of classification in the state of Idaho. And we kind of hedged our bet a little bit with Post Falls and Meridian in the rankings there.
Yeah, it was one of those. They're 1-1 technically. If we're going off tournament and duel, so how do you rank it? If we're just going straight up, Post Falls, Meridian, Post Falls is going to be number 1. And then for what Meridian did at Raleigh, they got to be, one up on them in the all class, just kind of 1-1, and to get some discussion going, get people going back and forth. And it's the only way to, Meridian would have the argument back. Well, we beat a Raleigh, we did this, we did that. And so a little bit 1-1, and, now we can settle it in a few more weeks.
That's right. So we put Post Falls as the number 1 team in the 5A rankings, but we had Meridian still as the number 1 team in the overall rankings. Everyone was like, And so everybody was like, are you guys like dumber than a box of rocks? Like, what did you guys messed that up? No, it was intentional. We did it to just kind of get a little chatter going for sure. But I don't know. You're splitting hairs at this point when you're talking about, Meridian, Post Falls. Travis White says if Cade wrestles, it's a different result too. Do you think that's accurate, Jacob? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Meridian lost by 12 though. I mean,
they by 9 points.
9. Okay, cool. So probably, Cade gets the pin, changes the whole thing completely. Yeah. And not having him mattered.
Yeah, for sure. And yet I always come back to the saying, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, then we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So, go ahead, Jacob.
And who knows, Rudabah, I mean, I'm not saying Rudabah would have beat him, but Cade has to get a pin there, stuff like that. There's so much that could happen.
Yeah.
Having strength on strength would be great, but
it
wasn't.
Yeah, it's a Pandora's box.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the score, 36-27. Say Cade wins, that makes it 33. You give 3 points to Meridian, that's 33-30. The match with Laguna, who's beaten them twice, Hudson Rogers. Say Rogers wins that, then they win the match. But what really hurt, and this is where they're powerful, Post Falls. Post Falls had 4 pins, which is huge.
Yeah, and we talked about the depth that both of these teams possess. Even Post Falls' second unit, those second guys have come in and done really well this year in bigger competitions. Okay, a couple more comments here. Travis says, no, he just has to get a decision and Meridian still wins. I don't want to get too far into the math here. That's not my. I'm not here to crunch the numbers, but I think it would be interesting for sure. I think we can all agree on that. Matthew says Post Falls, I'm assuming that's 138 pounds, came out clutch. And then I like this as well. Tiffany and Brian say, congrats to Post Falls from Meridian. They have great kids and great coaching. Also, thanks for being such great hosts for our kids. Looking forward to state. And Brian, it really is shaping up to be this like collision between Meridian and Post Falls. But yet there's always, a third, fourth, fifth team that can quote unquote steal points. And then what you thought was a 2-horse race suddenly becomes more interesting. Who's that team that might be lurking that maybe isn't quite where Meridian and Post Falls are, but could impact that race between those two at state?
Yeah, I think clearly, Nampa's going to bring some kids. They're going to score a lot of points. And, in some of those weights where both Meridian and Post Falls are tough, you got the Siemens kid at Nampa, either 60 or 70. He's going to push there. Navarro. I mean, so there's some kids there in the weights that they're all 3 tough. And so it's again, it could come down to the district tournaments and who can get the most kids of the depth into the tournament, how that works. Because most of these tournaments they're going to now, they score one person, but at the state tournament, the teams with their depth, and you look at Post Falls, their 2 team at the duels did really well also. And so, is that depth going to come into play? But Nampa would be that team I think that can push them. But Meridian has a tough district because Nampa's there, so Post Falls might have the advantage and might, you can't call it shocking at this point if Post Falls wins it, but it's going to be interesting. And tournament scoring is obviously different than dual scoring, so I think it's a 3-horse race, and Nampa probably can't win it, but they can play spoiler for somebody for sure.
Yeah. And I'll agree with that because if you look at Post Falls, they tend to score a lot of bonus points with Tech Falls and pens. They can pen very well, and that's going to make a big, huge difference at the state tournament. They're doing it to Meridian. They're going to do it to a lot of people. So
yeah, and I think everyone now is recognizing Post Falls, where earlier in the year, they were kind of off doing their own thing away from the rest of the state. They're front and center now. H.A. Havas, of course, over in Lewiston. Post Falls was on a roll for sure. They looked good last weekend, no doubt. Michael says, shout out to Post Falls for the hospitality and putting up the kids. Great folks. And then here's an interesting, Jacqueline is talking about CUNA a little bit. Al, what do you think about CUNA's potential, at state in terms of maybe being a factor and stealing some points?
Yeah, they have enough kids. They have a handful of kids that are going to place at state. They're going to be in the mix. They'll probably, what do you think, Jacob, top 5, 6? I mean,
yeah, I think they can go top 5.
Yeah.
Highland's better than what a lot of people give them credit for.
Yeah.
Eagle too. I mean, Eagle, their 98-pounder, depending on Ryder Sagan, their 98-pounder is the favorite. If Ryder goes 106, Frothinger, so you get both Frothingers. That's Stone. CUNA's there. I think the race for 4 is, who's getting that last trophy is a big one between Highland, Eagle, CUNA. I mean, even Thunder Ridge, Mountain Home, Rocky.
Yeah.
That race for 4 is.
Yeah. And another variable, right, Jacob, is we're going to have 3 weigh-ins. It's a 3-day tournament. There's a lot more pressure, a lot more. It'll come down to the end. Who's peaking? Who gets the most there at that time?
Definitely. The 5A is so intriguing to me. Troy Hobbs says bonus points, baby. That's where Post Falls really excels out. You talked about that. Matthew Hamilton from Post Falls says the Guerras both are monsters. They're from Mountain View, Giuseppe and Jean-Luc. What do you think about their potential at state, Jacob?
Giuseppe, 45-pounder, right? And then
Then Jean-Luc's 152.
52 right above it. I think they're both ranked top 4 and both compete super hard. They wrestled the entire time. So, when you wrestle them, it's 6 minutes at least. So, they have a shot, I think. Before it was, this guy is definitely for sure the champ. Now, I mean, you got to wrestle it. Everybody's raising their level a little bit. So everybody has a shot at the top.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to see. All right, Brian, I'll tee up this next question for you. Troy says, how's the match going to be with Rogers and Cordingley?
It's going to be fun. I mean, Cordingley always comes ready to wrestle. And, at Raleigh Lane, they didn't see each other. And I'm trying to think who beat Cordingley there. But Cordingley knocked off Foret, the returning 4A champ at that weight. And so I guess it was Laguna that beat Cordingley. And Laguna beat Rogers again this week, he's 2-0 against Rogers. And so that could likely be the 2-3 seed coming in there. And you never bet against Cordingley because he's so strong, so fundamentally sound. And Rogers is, a technician. So if I had to bet right now, my money would be on Rogers, but just busy in the off season, but that's going to be a fun match for sure. One of the better semifinal matchups likely in the state, assuming Laguna is the 1 seed, which it looks like he should be.
Yeah, Matthew with the shout out for Jose Laguna. Him, H-I-M. That's good stuff right there. Okay, there was a question earlier I wanted to get to because now we're starting to ask about specific matchups. Jeff Anderson wants to know, is Martino staying at 120? Talk about the depth at 120. We talked about this ahead of Raleigh Lane, right, Jacob, and how even without a couple of guys that weren't there, it was still the most loaded weight class.
I mean, 125, it could be ridiculous. I don't think Martino will stay down. I don't think he has really any reason. But I want to see him at both. I want to see Hoyt versus Martino. That could be really fun. But also a bracket with, Talonek. You get Diedrich in there and get Martino. And it got more interesting. Talon majored Diedrich this weekend. 13-5, kind of.
And then modern Carl.
Yeah, and he picked them apart. Do you see Diedrich go down to 13? That's the other question with it.
Mm-hmm. You talked about at 120, the Spring Creek tournament. Idaho placed top 3. You had Orr, Johns of Caldwell, and Bideman, the top 3 placers in an out-of-state tournament at 120. So 20 is deep. It's crazy.
The whole entire state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even the number 5, the Rocky, Kel Bullock, if he stays at 20, he All-American this in folk style. I mean, he's a good kid. Meridian has, a freshman. The Shaver kid's very tough. And that's without Martino coming down.
Right.
Or Martino's 4A. So that don't even matter.
You're right. Sam just said that. Hoyt 5A,
wait.
Martino 4A. But yeah, I mean, regardless of the classification, 120, very loaded for sure.
Another upset, or I don't know if an upset at Madison Invitational where I was, the finals match with Jackson Packer, an All-American, and Baumforth from Shelley, who beat him in the finals. I mean, you got Fargo All-Americans dropping all over the place. So that was crazy. Again, to the depth of 120, it's going to be fun.
A lot of parity there for sure. We got a couple shout outs here for Talon. Billy and Chelsea say, good job, Talon. And Troy says, yeah, how about Talon last week as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can go with the family. Attaboy. Good job, Talon.
Right.
You look good. Yeah, so.
Skylar Beck wants to give another shout out to a Grangeville Bulldog. TJ Fetters at 160 at the 2A level. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, solid. You can't argue with that. I mean, at 2A, he would compete at all levels, but he's solid. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Little bragging from up north, Matthew Hamilton. Yeah, but that Hamilton kid took the first ranked kid to the limit and has been leapfrogging kids all year. I think this is the first hashtag in the history of the show, guys. Hashtag built different. Gotta love it. Gotta
Damien's been wrestling good.
Yeah.
I've been telling him, since episode 1.
Yeah.
Old Papa Bear's been on it. So, I think Damien's up to Post Falls has the number 2 and the number 3 in that weight.
Yeah, it's again the Post Falls depth, very impressive. Here's an interesting question. I want everybody to answer this. So we'll go to Brian first here. Tiffany and Brian want to know toughest brother-sister combo in the state. Of course, their biased vote is for Isaiah and Elise Twait.
Yeah. Wow. I think I would have to agree with them. I mean, you got 2 that are going to be competing for a state title. They both could be state champions. I can't think of another brother-sister combo. I'd like to say my own 2, but, they're just not quite there. the Twaits, I'm going with the Twaits.
I don't know if there's anyone else other than sister and sister and brother. I'm not aware of any.
Yeah,
I'm trying to look. Trying to do some research.
The Vales from Bonneville High School. Yep. That's also a great brother-sister combo. You got Riker Vale and I just went blank, and I see them every week. But the Vales are
Kayla.
Yeah, Kayla. They're both going to be should be both state placers. So that's a tough combo right there. I don't know.
What about the Stones from Eagle?
Yep, there you go. There's another one that both those 3 are right off the top of my head. Those are the most competitive, and the Twaits both should be competing for state championships. So I got to agree with them.
Yeah, definitely.
Not much argument.
So we've got we've got a lot of in the chat here. Okay, we've got Vales possibly. Yep, we talked about the Vales from Bonneville, like they said. Julie says Dimitri and Michaela Smith from Mountain Home. There's a good one too.
Yeah.
This is a good question. I like the question here. It's making everybody think for sure. And let's see what else. Titus and Talia Nichols. That's from
from Rocky Mountain.
Yeah. Al, that's the school you coach at.
No, how did I not know that? I'm going to hear it tomorrow.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're going to hear that for sure. Jacqueline says we'll rewind back to the past. The Hubers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good one.
And if you're going to rewind back to the past, you can't. From past and present, you got the Randalls.
Yes.
Yeah, there's oh man, that was a really good question, man. That was a good question. I like that. And the people in the chat were getting the conversation going a little bit too. That's good. AJ Havas says the Stones are tough. Did we talk about them? I was trying to research while we were rattling off all the names. So yeah.
Wiley and Tommy.
Okay, guys, it looks like we have our second hashtag ever in the history of the show. This is from Alfonso. Hashtag quit being PC. Okay. All right. Gloves are off. I think we try to keep it respectable, and a little smack talk is good, but we're not going to go like way out of bounds on anything. And honestly, the parity across the state of Idaho has been so good this year, where Brian, we talked about it, where matches that we think are foregone conclusions aren't happening. Upsets are happening all over the place, week in, week out.
Yep. Every week. And that's what makes it fun. And you got kids that are, 1-1 against each other, 2-0, but they're just dead close matches. I mean, that's what makes the season fun as you go along, and you just see these kids grow and develop, and just cheering for them all over. But I think that's what's amazing. There's going to be upsets this week for sure.
Yes, definitely. There's Al. Oh man, we had him for just a second. Oh man.
Yeah, give me a second. I hit the button. You're going to see my face now.
Oh man, this could be huge if we can get Al going. Here's another sibling duo, Taylor and Tayson Brown. That's Thunder Ridge. Yeah, that's a good one too. For sure. Oh man, Al, what's up? You figured it out.
Oh, I hit my button.
There you go.
Technical difficulties.
Tech savvy for sure. And let's see, there's a couple more sibling names here. Jacqueline says the Fosters.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they from?
Up north.
Yeah.
Okay. And also go forward next year, Amy says the Sheens. I'm going to assume that's Buell, because Amy is all things Buell Indians for sure. Okay. We got people talking to each other in the comments, which I love. Troy Pig said Twait was the toughest, strongest kid he has wrestled besides his brother Sawyer. And then Tiffany and Brian say, thanks, Troy. Isaiah said the same thing about Pig. He's a beast. And I love that camaraderie. I love to see that amongst all of the fans that are here in the chat. Okay, we are getting a lot of comments in here. So I'm going to get to, let's see. Jed wants us to talk about the Magic Valley Classic that is coming up. Or did that already? Was that the one at Wendell? That already happened. Okay. So New Plymouth 1, Malad 2, Bear Lake 3, West Side 4, Ryrie 5. We talked about this last week, Al. This is kind of the premier event for all of the 2A teams to get together. What does this tell you? Does this tell you anything about how state might play out, Al?
Yeah, it's sort of a heads up where things are going to be in the beginning, but no, it's just sort of a preview, because we're getting closer to February, so people are starting to get what weights they're going to be going at the end of the year. They've had a chance to wrestle some good competition, so things are starting to settle. We're starting to get a clearer picture of what's to come.
We're getting more data.
That tournament had, I think, 2nd through 5th was 8 points.
Yeah,
different. New Plymouth ran away with it, but like in the past, it's not Ryrie's 1s that win them the tournament. Ryrie's 2s win it. So you give Ryrie. I mean, I know you get everybody else's 2s, but Westside, Bear Lake, Malad, even New Plymouth, their 2s in the past haven't been on the same level as Ryrie. So I think that gap closes a little bit.
Yeah, it's what Ryrie has done the past 10 years basically is like pretty incredible for sure. Okay, Matthew Hamilton wants to know Gentry, Smith, and Gooley from Meridian. Where is that going to end up? Brian, your reaction? What do you think?
Who knows? I mean, they're 1-1 now, and I mean, again, that's one of those matchups. I'd like to be on that seeding committee. I mean, because you're probably going to come down to record against common opponents, because I don't think they see each other again until state, and so you're going to have to go record because they're 1-1, and that's going to be one of those grunge matches. Who gets it in the state finals? You got to assume they're going to be there, and so I don't know who I would call on that. And I'm not being PC. I literally just don't know. I mean, Gooley can catch anybody if he catches him in a throw, but he beat him on points this week, so he didn't catch him. So.
And didn't Gentry pin him?
Yeah, at Raleigh Lane he did. So, either one of them could catch the other one, and if it goes, it's going to be a close match. So
it could determine the state title.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
What a story that would be. I'd look forward to your write-up of that, Al. That would be a lot of fun.
I'm already prepping.
Yeah. You're like the guys that go to the sports games and they've already got the first 3 paragraphs written, and then something happens in the game and they have to delete it all and rewrite the story. Yeah, that's
3 probabilities.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, let's there's a lot of good questions here I want to get to. Let's look ahead. Donovan wants to know any specific matchups you guys are excited to watch at Tiger Grizz this weekend. That's kind of the big event coming up this weekend in East Idaho. Brian, is there a specific matchup or a weight class you're looking forward to at Tiger Grizz?
Yeah, there are so many. I mean, you got partial, possibly 48 teams, partial teams showing up. And so there are so many matchups. 120 again, we didn't have Blackfoot at Raleigh Lane. So Mauger there goes the comment, 120 from Mauger. 120 is going to be interesting now that Mauger is going to be at this tournament to see. We've already talked about that weight class. The cross-divisional matchups with, Teton. So South Fremont and Minico both being there. There's been a lot, Minico beats them in a duel. We now get to see, who's the tougher tournament team. That's going to be fun. Does South Fremont get their revenge on Minico? Does that sort some things out? The 170 weight class, the Fulmer kid from Teton is just an absolute beast, undefeated right now. He's going to, have Cordingly, Fourette from Columbia as returning state champions. There's going to be some great matches in that weight class. So it's 138. There's some, fun East Idaho matchups, Vale and Nider from Idaho Falls and Bonneville, in the top 6 in the state at their weight, at 138. Plus you had Beidelman. I mean, there could be some great matchups in so many different weights.
I'm going Twist versus Knighting.
Yeah.
Knighting dropping to 60.
That's interesting too.
Yeah, man, there's going to be some really good battles at Tiger Grizz this weekend. I wanted to backtrack to real quick the Magic Valley Classic at Wendell. Jed says 2nd through 5th place were all within 7.5 points, which tells you, that 2A competition. We remember famously last year, Ryrie won it like on a walk-off, basically, right? Last match of the night. Could be that close again this year. Here's a little 3A love. Troy says, looks like American Falls took it to everyone in Parma. We might have to start giving the Beavers some love in 3A. They got some really good kids. Jacob, what do you think about American Falls?
They could have guys in this finals, 13, 20, 26, and 38, maybe 32. 32 so deep in 3A. But, I mean, Parma, it was not even close. Yeah. It's just pretty much an AF beat down to everybody. I think they had at least one weight, 2 in the finals.
They got a good freshman too, right? Googleman.
Yeah.
So also, I like to give a shout out too. We also have to look at the girls' side too. At the Jaybird, American Falls took 4th.
Yeah.
So they had a champion and 3 placers. I mean, on average of the top 10, most teams only had 2-3 placers, whereas Eagle had 6. So they, you're starting to see a lot of I think Canyon Ridge had up to 30 girls this year. So you're starting to see more and more, and American Falls had a pretty good contingent. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, it was a really good showing for American Falls overall, ranked 4th this week in the team rankings. That's from Paul Kingsbury. Billy and Chelsea say, go DJ. Going to be cheering on DJ this weekend. And they also say, Al's great. Thank you. There you go, Al. Getting a little love from Billy and Chelsea.
Thank you. I'm just having fun.
For sure. Okay. John Blaisdell from Malad. This is straight from the horse's mouth. In reference to Magic Valley, predictions on the overall racing state will be so tight. Once you add the few teams that weren't at Magic Valley, several teams that'll make some noise overall. Pretty excited to see what happens if everyone shows up. The 5th district will have a pretty suspenseful district tournament, right? Because you've got Malad and West Side and Bear Lake. And I mean, that 5th district for 2A is going to be pretty tough for sure. Definitely.
I think Kellogg is going to make 2A interesting too. Them coming down from 3A and who's in their district really. I mean, they did beat Coeur d'Alene in a duel. I mean, they have some guys that are going to, make it interesting.
Yeah. And Kellogg is a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on for sure. Lad Mauger wanted to give a shout out. Congrats to Pig and Hudson committing to Providence and Oregon State. I mean, we're seeing it, Al, continuing all these high.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that. So Hudson made the 9th D1 commit for this year, and I think 3 or 4 of them of the 9 are still juniors. For this state, this small of a state, that's incredible. Providence, I'm not sure of. Do you guys is that D3 or D2?
NAIA. They're in Great Falls.
NAIA?
Yeah, Great Falls, Montana. Yep. But
No.
that's a good, very good NAIA program, though, for sure.
And he'll be wrestling with his brother there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, this is good times here in Idaho. People are starting to take notice, and we got to keep in mind all these 9 kids and the kid going to Providence. One thing these kids have in common is their work ethic. These kids have been wrestling together since they were kids in the clubs, going to the nationals camps. So these kids have put in the time. No secret there. So
yeah,
great.
And we're talking about wrestling, girls wrestling, of course, the fastest growing sport in the nation. But even on the boys' side, it is picking up steam. Here's Skylar talking about Lapway. I'm glad to see Lapway have a team, coming from a basketball school. I mean, Lapway, of course, their girls and boys basketball teams are both undefeated, both incredible, probably will win state. But now Lapway, has a wrestling program. Skylar helps coach them, and they've come so far from the beginning. And it's so exciting to see all of these schools and athletes that would never have thought about wrestling, 10, 15 years ago that come out for it now. It really is incredible to see for sure. Okay. We have 3 really good thought-provoking questions here I wanted to get to. One was from the IdahoSports.com account. So this means it's the boss. And so we have to answer this. He said, I got an email this week from a wrestling fan asking, what do we have to do to get the IHSAA to change from a 3-day tourney to a 2-day tourney? Raleigh Lane ran more matches in its 2-day format this year than the 2023 state tournament, with the girls wrestling increasing to 12 weights as well. Brian, what do you think about this? 3 days versus 2 days?
I got to do the math on that, because the difference in Raleigh Lane, you have the 4 divisions. So you got 16 men. It is more, but logistically it would be tough. I love to see the 2-day tournament. I would hate to see them separate girls and boys. I actually like the 3-day. I know it's going to be tough for some kids, but as a fan, to have them all there, I'm sure we could lobby if all the coaches didn't want it. They get they could go to IHSA and say that if that's what the all the fans, all the teams want, but. I think it'd be tough to do a 2-day tournament, to give them the breaks, the weigh-ins, just the way the divisions are split up, the way they do the finals and stuff. I think it would be tough for the state tournament to be a 2-day tournament, especially in the Idaho Center there. I think in Holt Arena, the years it's there, I think it would be easier to do a 2-day tournament because you can get a few more mats out on the floor. So I'd be interested to hear what everyone says, 2 or 3 day, with the options. I think you're looking at either splitting it up or always using a football dome to host it where you can fit more mats.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is something you have to look at really closely as far as numbers. Logistics plays a big part too. We only have so many officials out there, plus the money it's going to cost to do it 2 weeks in a row and all this travel for the team. So, how many mats do we have at state last year in Pocatello? Was it 16?
I think they do 16.
Yeah.
And there's like 12. How many do we have at Raleigh Lane? 12?
12.
I'm wondering if we can put a few more there. See, it'd have to be a few more mats to make it possible. They can always run it. Well, everything's logistics, money, and cost. But I know Raleigh, don't they have the other facility too? The rodeo ground?
Yeah, that would be a possibility there.
Yeah, it's all money, logistics, and availability. There's so many factors. So.
Yeah, a lot of
splitting it up, but I'd like adding. You might as well add a few more lines on the bracket, even if it was only pigtail in. You got the time. Come on, let's add it up. Let's make it a 32. And let's wrestle.
Oh man, that's there's Captain Chaos, Jacob Beck. Okay,
yeah.
Amy says she likes the 2-day tournament. And our other Amy Scott says she likes having everyone together. Really sucked in 21 having 5A, 4A. You'll remember they kind of split it up, right? 5A, 4A for 2 days, and then it was 3A, 2A, 1A. It would really suck for those girls that are the only one on their team or on very small teams. That's the part we didn't think about, Al, is the girls wrestling is still an all classification competition.
Yeah.
So that would make it tough, right?
So it would make it tough. It's nice having them all under the same roof, especially for coaching logistic. Wasn't it prior to 2001 there was A1, A2, and A3, 3 divisions? Wasn't it after 2001 and went to 4?
Ooh,
Brian.
Yeah, I'm looking
Brian.
back in the history. I mean, I don't know. We may have to go to 2 or 3 divisions instead of 4 to make it logistically possible. Because what Brian was talking about, the logistics, the math, the time, it gets complicated.
Okay, here's a good idea in the comments from Tiffany and Brian. What do you guys think about this? Here's an idea on the 3-day state. Go 2 days for boys, Thursday, Friday, and then have the girls go on Saturday. Really gives them the showcase. They can run 16-man bracket tournaments in one day. They did it during the COVID year. Brian, I kind of like that idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the feasible ideas. You could do that logistically. It would work. These families with both a son and a daughter wrestling, they'd be there 3 days still. Some of these smaller teams right now, I like the crowd. I was at Madison and they ran the girls finals after they finished the boys, and a lot of people left and they missed out on some great wrestling. And so, for the fans and for the kids to have everybody in the gym, that's the one problem I have with that idea is there's just, you lose some of the fans for the girls. When that Idaho Center or the Holt Arena is packed, I mean, that finals atmosphere is just electric. And so until the girls are completely, 600-700, well, I guess we're at 600 now, but I mean,
yeah,
just fan wise, I like it the way it is altogether for now, just because of the fans.
Yeah. So we got Billy and Chelsea, and I know they've got a daughter that wrestles, and no, all caps. They don't want the 1 day. They don't want the 1 day competition. Angela says 2 days. State is expected to be less wrestlers in total than Raleigh Lane when it comes to the total count. I haven't looked at the numbers too closely on that. Does that sound right to you, Al?
2
More
days.
Raleigh Lane than State. More total wrestlers at Raleigh Lane than at State.
I don't know. I mean, you got 4
Close.
divisions. It was a 64-man bracket for the boys, and the girls were they at 32?
32s.
So I'd have to do the math. Probably more at State.
Close.
Yeah.
Close. It's close because State's 16, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you only have one girl. Well, yeah. Raleigh is probably bigger because you have the 4 divisions. So you've got 64 between the boys and then only a 16-man bracket in the girls rather than 32. So Raleigh might be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Close.
Yeah, it's interesting. Travis says switch the girls and the boys. Boys finals needs to be Saturday night. And Brian, I think maybe you're right there. Until the girls gets a little more steam built up, right? It's still somewhat new. I like that. Vincent Martino says it's about number of matches. There will be less matches at State for boys and girls than at Raleigh Lane. So doing State in 2 days is definitely doable. There will be 30 fewer kids at State than there were at Raleigh. I'm glad Vincent did the math on this because I hate doing math. We should not pull kids out of school for an additional day. Just wrong. That's something to consider too, right? Al, is all of these wrestlers are great athletes and you are pulling them out of school for that extra day. And if you're up north or something, you're probably pulling them out 2 days because it takes 2 days to travel where they're going. Yeah,
to me, academics have always been important, and especially when you to take them out 3 days is very difficult because who wants to study when you're cutting weight for 3 days and working and wrestling? It's very difficult. So I would love to go back to 2 days.
Yeah,
find a way.
Yeah, Vincent's got the official numbers here: 1152 for State, 1182 at Raleigh. So 30 more wrestlers at Raleigh Lane than will be at State this year, which is pretty impressive. And Amy brings up a good point from Buell as well with travel. Very few schools would pay for the girls to be there during the boys tournament and then for the boys to stay for the girls, right? Because you're talking about buses and all of that, and you want them to get home as quickly as possible, and people may not want to hang around. So that's a good point as well. It's definitely an interesting, thought-provoking discussion, and we had comments and opinions on both sides, certainly. So that's a good conversation to have. Here's a fun conversation as well. I'll ask all of you guys this question. Tiffany and Brian, again, they are like coming tonight. We might have to make them co-hosts here on the show. They're coming up with great content. Tiffany and Brian say, any chance we bring back the All-Star Duel again? That was an awesome event back in the day, Brian. I'm going to defer to you because you have the most history under that hat of yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a chance. Chris Owens had a big hand in establishing that before, and I think they could do it again. USA Idaho, who organizes is IHSA that has to organize it. They didn't last time. It was just kind of, they got it sanctioned. So I think there's a good chance that it could be brought, especially if there's demand for it. This isn't the first time somebody's asked for that. So I would love to see that. I mean, and I believe before it was the week before Raleigh Lane as well. I can't remember. It might've been later in the year. So I think it'd be great. The fans need to tell all their coaches they want that, tell IHSA they want that, and let's get it done.
Yeah, if we do it, if we do something like that, I'll promote it. I'll write it up. I mean, if you had it on Flow, we can get more college coaches out here looking. I mean, it can only be a positive to showcase our elite, the gems.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like that idea a lot for sure. Okay, we have a little bit of spillover still from that 3-day versus 2A conversation. I want to make sure everybody's comments get heard here. Jed says, I think it'll cost us around $2,500 more for one extra day this year, over $2,000 when you take into account bus and hotels. That is expensive, especially in this current economy for schools that are having to shake out the couch cushions and look for every last penny that they can. So, yeah, that's something interesting. Donovan, who is a coach, Vincent is spot on with the 2 days, run the girls and boys finals at the same time. And Alfonso says, leave it to a Martino. They're all really smart to crunch the numbers.
That's
right.
the logistics I was talking about. There's so many logistics in this, financial, officials, school, everything has to be taken into account. And at the end of the day, it's what's good for the students and the wrestlers and the families to make it as easy as possible.
Yep, for sure. Bruce Schultz says as well, it's all priorities. Schools pay to send basketball teams on separate buses to the same site for games. Definitely, and basketball has about, a 40-year head start in girls in terms of basketball versus wrestling. I think we'll get to a point where girls wrestling is like girls basketball where, we're sending separate buses. But you're right. Right now, basketball still, because of that built-in history, has that advantage, certainly. And Amy says, so much easier when it's in Pocatello, which can handle so many more mats. As somebody who lives in Pocatello, I'm good with that idea. Yeah. And Brian's, good with that because he's an East Idaho guy. I don't know if everybody else is on board with that, but I sure am.
East Idaho loves that comment.
Yeah, no doubt. Travis says, talking about the All-Star duels, you're right, Al. It's only a positive. Bring back the All-Star duel like Utah does. I think we're all in agreement on that. Okay, JJ wants to know, what about Ryder Seguin at 98 pounds, defending state champ, and the kids wrestled 3 weight classes and been ranked number 1 in each. Is that right, Jacob? He's wrestled at 3 different weights this year?
Yep. He took out a state finalist at 113 early in the year. Been 6 a lot. Now he's 98 for anything big. Who knows where he goes at this point?
No matter what weight class Ryder's in, he's coming for you.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all there is to it.
That's all you got to know there. Okay, we're getting some traction on this Pocatello idea, guys. Billy and Chelsea say vote Pocatello, and Tiffany and Brian say plenty of mats in Pocatello, but not enough hotels. Ooh, good point. Might have to spill over. Do you find that, Brian, that there's some spillover to Idaho Falls a little bit with lodging when states in Pocatello?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, down to Blackfoot, the reservation that fills up. But yeah, there's some spillover to Idaho Falls every state, every wrestling state tournament. So, come on, Pocatello, build some hotels.
Right. I get this during state basketball all the time too, and people are like, yeah, Idaho Falls to Pocatello is such a long drive. It's, 45 minutes. And I'm like, when I'm in Boise for state basketball and I've got to go to Caldwell with the traffic, it's the same amount of time on it really is. But anyways, that's another topic for another day. Matthew says Holtz all the way. though, is there a up north preference? Though it's the preference for those up north is Pocatello. That's where they like to go. More love here for Ryder, Bridget with the heart emoji, and AJ Havas. Love Ryder's wrestling, such a beast. Amy says can't hardly get a hotel near the Idaho Center either in Nampa. While we're talking about lodging and accommodations, and yeah, good luck trying to turn off that exit too on Championship Saturday. Daniel says, if we're gonna be cramped, bring it up north and spread the bus time around. Where would it be up north? The Kibbe Dome in Moscow would be about the only place, right?
Yeah,
Brian?
that's where it was when I was in high school. They rotated it up to the Kibbe Dome. I don't know how many years, but it was the Kibbe Dome and Holt Arena because the Idaho Center didn't exist. So, it worked up there for years. I'm shocked that we don't have to rotate it up there every once in a while.
Yeah, I would think the North would get to be in the rotation they do for most of the other sports. That is kind of interesting. Michael says, is the Mountain America Center large enough to host state?
The one in Idaho Falls?
That's the new one that just got built in Idaho. I haven't actually been in there yet, but it looks big from the interstate when I drive by it.
I'm going to say no way.
Yeah, I don't know.
It'd probably be pretty tight because it's not as it's comparable to the Idaho Center though.
Yeah, it'd be, I don't know, it's kind of similar buildings, similar functions, multi-purpose buildings. Bruce says Boise is the only place that has enough lodging. He coached wrestling in Lewiston for years, and that trip to Pocatello was miserable for northern teams. You get to drive through Montana. That's my home state. It can't be that bad. You get to see the great state of Montana a little bit. We're getting a lot of traction for Moscow too here. Of course, Rachel Zimmerman says, yes, Moscow. That would be right in her backyard. Kibbe Dome, Julianne says. Jed says, yeah, let's go to the Kibbe Dome. The last time state was there was 1995. So there you go, Brian.
Shows how old I am.
Yeah, Matthew says up north, you could do it at the courts at Real Life. That's where like Genesis Prep plays their basketball games at. They've got all those soccer fields. I know I've never seen how many indoor courts they have, but that, I don't know, that might be a tight fit as well up there in Post Falls. That's where the courts at Real Life are. That'd be interesting. Alfonso says, everybody's talking about can't get a hotel. Make friends and stay with other wrestling families. Get that camaraderie going a little bit. Bruce says, in the winter, going over Lolo Pass, really? I guess, yeah, I was thinking more of the Coeur d'Alene and those guys probably come through Montana. But if you're more District 2, Lewiston, you probably come not through Coeur d'Alene, I guess, but you would come through Lolo Pass. I don't know. I guess I don't know how you would travel to Pocatello from District 2, but no matter where you're going in the wintertime, the driving's not going to be great for sure. Sam says we do it all the time. So, all right, there you go. Hey, all you people up north, you can beef that out on your own.
So, Brandon, okay. I got a question to all the group here. Going back to the All-Star meet of the past, was it senior only or just the best two guys in each weight group? How did it run back in the day?
It was the best each weight class. I mean, they tried to get the best. Obviously, it was volunteer if they could come and if they had an event available. But they tried to invite the best two that they could get. It didn't matter division.
So say they did bring that back and you did have that. We also have to consider making a division, a duel for the girls too, right? Because, I mean, we got 7 girls ranked nationally right now, and you're starting to see a good, strong group of grassroots levels, middle school kids coming up, freshmen. So, and to help grow women's wrestling in this state and across the country. So something to consider.
Yeah. Jacqueline says it was the best two guys going head to head. And she said, when my kids were younger, they looked up to those guys. Yeah. You talk about cultivating the culture, right? Having a signature showcase event like that is going to get those younger wrestlers fired up. And these high school wrestlers are like, legends and rock stars to our youth wrestlers. So yeah, I agree. Nothing but good could come from having that event there for sure. Bruce, one more time with the travel, and then I promise this is the last of it. When I coached our trip, depending on the weather, either over Lolo or through Boise. Okay, gotcha. Boise typically has nicer weather this time of year. Tiffany and Brian, Alfonso, can I be your friend next year when it's in Pocatello? I have a big family. There you go, Alfonso. Don't let your mouth sign checks that you can't cash.
He has 3 or 4 extra bedrooms. He's fine right now. All his kids are at college.
Yep, for sure. Okay, John says, speaking of Montana, has anyone been to their state finals tournament? For the intro of the tournament, they walk all of the kids out with signs representing their school. Pretty cool to see all of the kids out on the mats at once. So, of course, I'm from Montana, but my school didn't have wrestling. We were the only we were like a 4A school in Idaho, and we were the only school in our classification that didn't have wrestling. So I'm assuming it's kind of like maybe the Olympics where everybody walks in with their, representing their school. I don't know, kind of a cool idea. It'd be kind of cool to see Idaho implement that for sure. So good comment there from John. Okay, last question, guys, and then we'll get out of here because we went super long tonight, but that is okay because we had a lot of people in the comments in the chat. And so as long as they're okay hanging out, I'm okay with hanging out. I got to scroll back and find it because it was quite a while ago. I wanted to save it until the very end, though. I did say, so Donovan did say that Tiger Grizz is going to be on Flow this weekend. So that's, wrestling fans want to tune in and watch. It's going to be exciting. The Billings Metra is what hosts the Montana State Tournament for wrestling. And Daniel says the Metra is about the size of the Idaho Center. And he made that walk. It's pretty good. So that's talking about that Montana State Tournament there. Okay, the last question of the night, and then we will get out of here. And big thanks to everybody who jumped in the chat tonight. This was by far our most active chat in our short run of 5 episodes here on the show. And friendly reminder, before we wrap up tonight, if you could just hit that like button or share it or retweet it or subscribe, wherever you're watching at, if you could do that real quick again for us, it'll help so many people that couldn't be here live tonight that want to come back and watch it tomorrow. Okay, so Matthew says, let's get personal. What is your go-to move down 4? Jacob, you go first.
Gator bacon. Ness used it in the finals against Dan Dennis, so I'm going Gator bacon. Upside down.
Okay.
Let you get to my leg. We're going upside down.
Al, do you have a go-to move?
Come on now.
I'm down by 4 with so many seconds left to go. I'm snapping a friend headlock, doing a duck into a near side cradle called a Daniel Boone.
All right, Brian, you got a go-to move down 4?
I got to know what position it. Am I top, bottom, or neutral? I'm going to say neutral. Everybody's looking for a headlock or a throw. I'm going to go arm spin, catch them off guard because I can pinch that elbow when they're reaching for a collar tie. They're avoiding a headlock, but I think that's always there.
Okay, hey, there's multiple ways to get the W. That's for sure. I liked that. That was a good question. A lot of great questions from the chat tonight. Thanks to everybody who joined us live. Tiffany and Brian, thanks all. Fun night of talking wrestling, building up these great kids. Let's keep it going, Idaho. And again, that's why we do this every week. That's why we have Al, all of the great content, all the great articles you write, the wrestling rankings that we do. It's all about these student athletes and promoting them and putting them on the map. They're already on the map for Idaho, but we want to get that regional and nationwide recognition going. So thank you to all of you in the chat tonight as well, because really you're the ones doing, 95% of the work. It starts in the home, then it extends to the school. And so what you're doing at home with these young men and women, phenomenal. And it's so fun to watch these athletes week in and week out. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy the competitions this weekend, and we will be back again next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. For Brian, Jacob, and Al, I'm Brandon. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.